Chapter 886. After dealing with those heavenly demons, everyone continued to move forward. Although the size of the entire team was getting smaller and smaller, they were getting closer and closer to their goal. The path formed by the scattered boulders was still very long. Except for the danger of stepping on air and falling down, it could be considered a smooth path. After the final battle with the heavenly demons, everyone had to stop again after hundreds of thousands of years of traveling. Looking at the front from afar, there was actually a row of giants wearing black iron armor blocking the path. As they continued to move forward, the ancient starry sky path became much narrower. It was originally tens of thousands of miles wide, but now was only tens of thousands of feet wide. In a tens of thousands of feet wide passage, there were only a dozen or so boulders, which forced everyone to gather together. It also made it easy for the row of 9 black iron giants to block the entire path. Obviously, if they wanted to move forward, they had to first clear the obstacles on the path, which was to defeat the 9 black iron giants. The 9 black iron giants did not move at all. With the black iron spears in their hands, they were like iron statues that had existed since time immemorial and were as immovable as mountains. But if anyone dared to approach them, they would definitely be ruthlessly attacked by them. After more than 200 experts of the world of immortals carefully observed for a while, the current generation of Hao-Ian evil spirit demon lord took the lead and flew over. Hongjun ancestor, Fudi, Xiao Lingyu, and more than a dozen experts who opened the path in front also took action. Everyone stepped on the boulders and flew towards the 9 black iron giants. When they were less than 100 feet away from the 9 black iron giants, the 9 black iron giants suddenly seemed to be injected with life. The spears in their hands pierced forward together, and suddenly, 9 sharp spear lights whistled out. What surprised Xiaoling Yu was that the 9 spear lights were clearly condensed from Grand Miss Xianqi. An attack launched by Grand Miss Xianqi was naturally not a small matter. More than a dozen experts of the world of immortals were shocked and stopped at the same time. Each of them used the Grand Mist Xianqi in their body to cast a technique to resist. The reason why these experts were at the top was, first, because their cultivation was extremely high, and second, because they had cultivated and stored a lot of Grand Mist Xianqi. This was a complete confrontation of Grand Mist profound energy. Even Peak Star Realm experts who had not cultivated Grand Mist profound energy did not have the qualifications to participate. Hongjun ancestor, Fudi, and evil spirit demon lord were stronger. Each of them was dealing with a black iron giant. Xiaoling Yu, Dong Wang, Fuxi, and other experts were dealing with a black iron giant in pairs. It seemed that they had the upper hand, but in fact, they were at a disadvantage. Those black iron giants seemed to have an endless amount of primordial profound qi in their bodies. Their attacks were very simple, without any fancy moves or spear techniques, but their attacks were always very fast and tyrannical, and they were always using primordial profound qi to attack. Not only were their attacks overbearing, but their defenses were also extraordinarily strong. Even if they were struck by Xiaoling Yu's primordial sword radiance, their bodies, which seemed to be cast from black iron, would at most be dented. They were not penetrated, nor were they torn apart. Of course, it was impossible for them to be killed. If they had a weakness, it would be that they seemed to only have a fighting consciousness, but not a true life consciousness. In other words, they were all puppets. So, using soul attack magic to deal with them was also ineffective. The only things that could truly threaten them were the primordial profound flame and evil spirit demon lord slate. Although everyone had a lot of primordial profound qi in their bodies, if they were to use the primordial profound flame to attack, they would not be able to hold on for too long. But at this moment, they could only do so. More than 10 peak experts of the world of immortals used their primordial profound qi to ignite the primordial profound flame. Then, the primordial profound flame turned into fire dragons that rushed towards the 9 black iron giants and ignited their bodies. It was really useful. Being enveloped by the primordial profound flame, the 9 black iron giants' movements appeared to be a lot slower, and their attacks were no longer powerful. But the quality of their bodies was really too strong. Even the primordial profound flame had a hard time incinerating them in a short period of time. More than 10 peak experts of the world of immortals, each and every one of them desperately poured their primordial profound chi into the primordial profound flame, so that the primordial profound flame could burn for a little longer. The only one who could threaten the Black Iron Giants was the evil spirit demon master. He was constantly bombarding the 9 Black Iron Giants with the stone slabs wrapped in grand mist profound fire. Every time he attacked, he would cause a Black Iron Giant's body to change shape. If this continued, it wouldn't be long before these Black Iron Giants collapsed under the bombardment of the stone slabs. The primordial profound flame, released by more than 10 peak experts of the world of immortals, was extinguished one by one. Everyone did not have an unlimited amount of primordial profound chi in their bodies. Everyone was trying their best to persevere, squandering the primordial profound chi in their bodies, then silently retreated. Without primordial profound chi, standing in front was not only dangerous, but also meaningless. Shaolin Yu's cultivation of primordial profound chi was easier, so he had more primordial profound chi in his body. Therefore, he had been persevering. The evil spirit demon lord was also trying his best to increase the frequency of his attacks. Wherever the primordial profound flame was weaker, he would focus his attacks on that side. When most of the primordial profound flame had been extinguished, the 9 Black Iron Giants had already been smashed until their forms were distorted. It was impossible to see their original giant form. Each and every one of them looked like a pile of scrap iron pieced together into a lump. Even the black iron spears in their hands were bent. The primordial profound flame and the primordial slate's bombardment had caused the 9 Black Iron Giants' battle prowess to drop by too much. Even if the peak experts of the world of immortals did not have a large amount of primordial profound chi and were unable to release primordial profound flame, it was still very difficult for them to threaten everyone's safety. At this point in the battle, everyone could finally see the hope of victory. It was also the most dangerous moment. Shaolin Yu naturally went all out. Primordial sword radiance, bloodlight of destruction, primal chaos seal, all kinds of methods were continuously released. The main attack was still the evil spirit demon lord. His primordial slate was the real powerful method. However, even though the strength of the 9 Black Iron Giants had dropped by a lot, they were still able to continuously release primordial profound chi. Once the experts of the world of immortals who did not have primordial profound chi in their bodies were hit, most of them were seriously injured and retreated. There were also some who were directly blasted out of the void. Among the more than 10 peak experts who participated in the battle, 2 had already died in battle and 5 had retreated with serious injuries. However, as time passed, the might of the 9 Black Iron Giants became weaker and weaker. It seemed that they would not be able to hold on for too long. Since the other party was weak, this side naturally had to strengthen their attacks. The experts of the world of immortals quickly attacked with all kinds of powerful divine abilities. Just when the aura of the 9 Black Iron Giants had dropped to the extreme, they suddenly erupted with an incomparably powerful aura. Not good. Quickly retreat. Hong Jun ancestor shouted and immediately retreated. Just as everyone was retreating in shock, the 9 Black Iron Giants suddenly roared in unison. Their bodies shone with primordial profound chi, and then 9 streaks of primordial profound chi quickly gathered together and shot towards the direction of the evil spirit demon lord. That streak of primordial profound chi was mighty and powerful. Even the evil spirit demon lord felt his heart palpitate. However, he also realized that he could not dodge at all, so he used the slate to block. The slate blocked that streak of primordial profound chi in an instant. However, in the next moment, the primordial profound chi surged past the slate and fiercely blasted onto the body of the evil spirit demon lord. Although the evil spirit demon lord was strong, he had fought for too long. His condition was not as good as when he was at his peak. At this moment, after being hit by so much primordial profound chi, his body could only hold on for a short while before suddenly exploding. The slate that symbolized celestial venerable Hao's position shot out a ray of colorful light at this moment. It wrapped around a strand of evil spirit demon Lord's broken soul and flashed into the starry sky with that strand of broken soul. Soon after, the stone slab disappeared as well. All of this was done in the blink of an eye. Everyone only had time to exclaim before everything was over. The 9 black iron giants fell silent again. However, there was no powerful aura overflowing from their bodies. It was obvious that their power had been exhausted. Evil spirit demon lord has fallen. Dong Wang asked in surprise. He has fallen. His fate wasn't high. This is already his limit. Ancestor Hong Jun shook his head and sighed. Then he said, "This is also the reason why I felt that it was a pity when I heard that he had obtained the position of celestial venerable Hao. Hao Tian came to the ancient path of stars, so he must have been a key target. If he wasn't a cultivator with an extremely high fate, he would have died sooner or later. However, at least he helped us get rid of these black iron giants. Moreover, he didn't die. He just fell into the cycle of reincarnation. Sooner or later, he will reach the peak of perfection," Dong Wang said. The fall of the evil spirit demon lord didn't shake everyone's will. It only made them sigh for a while. Ancestor Hong Jun flew towards another black iron giant. Even when he was in front of it, the black iron giant didn't move at all. They are already useless. They no longer have any combat power, Ancestor Hong Jun said after checking for a while. Fudi then flew towards a black iron giant. Originally, he opened his mouth wide and was about to swallow and digest it. However, after a pause, he gave up this plan. He wasn't afraid that he couldn't digest it, but that he was worried that he would encounter another accident. These are all left behind by that person. We can't take them. As Ancestor Hong Jun spoke, he kept pushing the 9 useless black iron giants into the void and watched them disappear. Everyone began to recuperate again. It was mainly for the strong practitioners to accumulate primordial qi and heal their injuries. It still took an unknown amount of time. After everyone recovered, Ancestor Hong Jun led everyone forward. After carefully walking for millions of years, this ancient path of stars paved with scattered boulders finally came to an end. This could also be the end of the entire ancient path of stars, because in front of everyone was a stone staircase that was about 100,000 feet wide. The stone staircase extended all the way up. Each level was 3 feet high, but they couldn't see where the top was. Instead, in front of the first level of the stone staircase, there was a stone tablet that was thousands of feet tall. On it, there were 2 vertical lines of words. Those who don't enter the cycle of reincarnation are all ants. Only by gathering the primordial chaos can one become the heavens. Chapter 887. Old Ancestor. What do you mean by that? Dong Wang and the other top experts of the world of immortals looked at Old Ancestor Hong Jun, the senior with the highest realm. Those who don't enter the cycle of reincarnation are all ants. It's very simple. If you don't experience reincarnation and recultivate, you will always be an ant. No matter how high your cultivation is, you won't be able to break through the fate of an ant. You won't be able to escape the fate of an ant. As for the primordial world, it should mean that your body and mind become the primordial world. Your entire body is the primordial body, primordial heart, primordial infant, primordial soul, primordial muscles, bones, blood, and flesh. Only then can you become the heavens, jump out of the fate of the chessboard, and truly control yourself. Old Ancestor Hong Jun squinted and explained with a bitter smile. But only Hao Yin can enter the cycle of reincarnation. Ordinary cultivators will completely disappear if they die. How can they reincarnate? Dong Wang was puzzled. Moreover, even if you get the position of Celestial Venerable Hao, you won't be able to break through the peak of the star realm. When you reach the ancient path of stars, you will still be a key target to be killed. It's also difficult to ascend to the heavens. An expert of the world of immortals was also puzzled. The reason why Hao Yin can easily disappear on the ancient path of stars and why no Hao Yin can truly ascend to the heavens is probably because that person knows the threat of Haoyin, so he deliberately set up many disasters to kill Haoyin. Old ancestor Hong Jun sighed again and continued. Haoyin should be the only hope to ascend to the heavens. The cultivators who used to be Haoyin and cultivated until now through reincarnation and came here, is there any hope? Fudi suddenly asked. There should be. The key is to cultivate the body of primordial world. Old ancestor Hong Jun nodded. Then isn't there no hope for us? Dong Wang and the other experts were a little disappointed. It's not that you have no hope. As long as you find the position of celestial venerable Hao, even if you get it temporarily and then die, as long as you struggle in the cycle of reincarnation, there will be hope. Old ancestor Hong Jun shook his head and comforted them. Not to mention how difficult it is to get the position of celestial venerable Hao. It is extremely difficult to reach the peak again after countless reincarnations. What's more, one has to cultivate the primordial physique. How many peerless geniuses have come to the ancient path of stars? Who has cultivated the primordial physique? Or who can cultivate it? At this moment, the experts from the lifelong realm were all filled with despair. If it's not difficult, and everyone can ascend to the heavens, what's the point of ascending to the heavens? As Xiao Yu was already very strong, his recovery speed was also very fast. Therefore, he was actually very relaxed. While other cultivators were recovering and resting, he would either continue to cultivate the primordial qi or enter the reincarnation dream realm. In fact, everyone was secretly rejoicing in their hearts. Fortunately, there were many practitioners here this time. Otherwise, not to mention reaching the top of the steps, even if it was an existence like Hong Jun ancestor, it would be difficult for a single practitioner to reach the 8,000 step. When everyone reached the 9,600 step, they could see the top of the stone steps. At the end of the stone steps, there were two tall stone pillars. There were carvings on the stone pillars, but no one could see what the carvings were. In the middle of the two stone pillars, there was a gate. There was a plaque above the gate with the words Heaven's Gate written on it. Seeing the gate and the words Heaven's Gate, everyone was a little excited, as if they had been lost for many years and finally saw the gate of their home. They were also like travelers in the desert who saw an oasis. Today, the goal that they had been fighting for many years finally revealed its true face in the fog. Even Xiao Yu had the impulse to cheer. Seeing the Heaven's Gate, everyone naturally worked harder. They continued to climb up. The higher they went, the stronger the repulsive force was, and the longer they needed to rest and prepare. Practitioners at the level of Hong Jun ancestor, Xiao Yu, and Fudi had more free time. They did not consume much energy each time, and it took a short time for them to recover. Therefore, they had a lot of time to wait for other practitioners. At the end, they had to wait for at least hundreds of thousands of years for every step. When everyone reached the 9,997th step, they were 2 steps away from the Heaven's Gate. However, because the repulsive force was too strong, they could not reach the second last step, let alone reach the top. Hong Jun ancestor took out many elixirs, which were used to enhance the practitioner's internal force and strength. Every practitioner got one. With the help of these elixirs, everyone went up to the 9,998th step. One more step, and they would be able to reach the Heaven's Gate. Hong Jun ancestor brought so many elixirs to enhance his internal force and strength. It was as if he had been prepared and knew that these elixirs were needed here. Xiao Yu was a little surprised. However, thinking that Hong Jun ancestor had a very strong divination skill, Xiao Yu was relieved. However, even with the help of the elixirs, they could not continue to move forward on the last step. The repulsive force gushed out from the top, which was the 9,999th step, and no one could resist it at all. Xiao Yu, who had been very relaxed before, also could not resist the huge repulsive force with all his strength. The same was true for Fudi, Hong Jun ancestor, and other top practitioners. It seems that what is written on the stone tablet below is true. Only by really practicing the Hongming body can we reach the Heaven's Gate. Dong Wang shook his head and smiled bitterly. Don't worry, as long as more practitioners come, we may be able to go up. Hong Jun, ancestor, persuaded. Almost everyone who can come is here. Who else can come? A cultivator said, without much hope. Since we can come, there are naturally other practitioners who can come. Hong Jun, ancestor, said with confidence. The world of immortals may have collapsed. Who can come up later? Xiaoling Yu also frowned and said, the world of immortals will not collapse. Hong Jun, ancestor, said firmly. No one had a better choice, so they could only wait here. Anyone could imagine that even if more cultivators were to arrive, it would take a very long time for them to arrive. But now in the 9,998th step, everyone could barely stand firm. While recovering, they used the newly recovered strength to resist the repulsive force. They could not really cultivate, let alone make progress. Xiaoling Yu could continue to accumulate Hongming, Xianqi. Knowing that it would take a long time, he occasionally entered the reincarnation dream to cultivate. Time passed quietly like this. Waiting was lonely, especially this kind of boring wait of constant recovery and consumption. For ordinary practitioners, it was a kind of torture. 1,000 years, 10,000 years, or even 100 million years of waiting was nothing to the cultivators here. After all, they had been cultivating for countless years and had long since gotten used to the days of loneliness. However, this kind of waiting was the most difficult to endure. Almost all the experts of the world of immortals came to the ancient Star Road. Most of them died on the ancient Star Road, and only a few of them came here. Other practitioners had not even reached the Star Extreme realm. It was really difficult to estimate how much time it would take for a large number of practitioners to reach the peak Star Extreme realm and be willing to go to the ancient Star Road. But in this kind of waiting days, Xiaoling Yu kept making progress in the reincarnation dream. The star universe in his inner world kept increasing the Hongmeng Xianqi storage, so it was not a waste of time. Chapter 888. The appearance was born from the heart, so was the dream. However, in the reincarnation dream, Xiaoling Yu could only feel that the main character was himself, but the things he experienced were very colorful and rich. They were not his original experiences, nor were there any projections or derivations of his own experiences. The experiences of those lifetimes were like other people's experiences and had nothing to do with the real him. In the dream, he was constantly reincarnating, living life after life. At that time, he didn't know that the memories of those lifetimes would resurface in his current memories after waking up. This reincarnation dream was really too wonderful for words. It was impossible to figure out. In the lonely days of waiting, other than accumulating grand mist profound chi, Xiaoling Yu also entered the reincarnation dream. He felt that this was very interesting. Time flowed silently. Below the gate of heaven, the experts of the world of immortals on the 9,998th step were all bitterly persevering. They shared the repulsive force of the step together. The speed of consumption was almost the same as the speed of recovery. In any case, they couldn't go up now. If they really couldn't persevere, they could just retreat one step and wait for more cultivators to come up in the future. What Xiaoling Yu didn't know was that not long after they arrived at the ancient starry sky path, the world of immortals was already peaceful. There were no longer stars falling from the sky, and the 9 suns of the 9 moons had also returned to normal. The destruction brought by the falling stars on the world of immortals was also gradually smoothed out with the passage of time. Now, the world of immortals was full of vitality again. Countless cultivators were cultivating, living, and fighting in the world of immortals. The experts of the past had become the legends of the world of immortals. The existence of the ancient starry sky path was naturally not forgotten. It was passed down from generation to generation. However, the meaning of entering the ancient starry sky path was not very clear to the cultivators of the world of immortals. Therefore, very few cultivators would go to the ancient starry sky path. Of course, the number of cultivators who could cultivate to the late stage of celestial realm was really too few, let alone the peak of celestial realm. There were none now, but if this continued for a long time, who could guarantee that there wouldn't be any in the future. As the saying goes, there would always be talents in every generation. In the endless years, there would always be some extraordinary geniuses emerging. There would always be those who reached the peak. When those who reached the peak of perfection reached the peak of star extremity, they would feel the loneliness of being alone at the peak. They would then have thoughts of continuing to seek breakthroughs. According to some ancient legends, they would think of the ancient starry skies. This was especially true for the cultivators from Earth who had ascended from the god realm. They would inquire about the whereabouts of the powerhouses from Earth, and over time, they would be able to track down the ancient path of the stars. As a result, more and more experts came to know about the ancient starry sky road. The top experts who were unwilling to remain stagnant began to think about the ancient starry sky path. Countless years passed, and another cultivator became Great Heaven. The New How Tion led countless experts from the lifelong realm and fought a decisive battle with the heavenly star Beast Tide. He killed Beastmaster and bathed the heavenly star forest in blood. The New How Ian had cultivated for countless years, and finally, he brought many peak experts of the world of immortals into the ancient road of stars. Before and after the new vast heaven appeared, some cultivators either went to the ancient path of the stars or followed it. Xiao Lingyu was still in the reincarnation dream realm. Finally, in this life, he also cultivated to the peak of star extremity. Although he didn't obtain the position of celestial venerable Hao, he also entered the ancient path of the stars. In this life, he wasn't a genius. He was an ordinary person who had experienced countless calamities. He was careful and vigilant all the way, and he cultivated to the peak of star extremity step by step. When he reached the ancient path of the stars, he and the other experts along the way fought. In the end, he was the only one who reached the stone steps. The repulsive force on the stone steps was too strong. He could only go up to the 6,000th step and couldn't go up anymore. He could only wait for the other experts to arrive. The flow of time in the reincarnation dream realm was very fast. After waiting alone for countless years, there really were experts who came. More and more experts arrived. Everyone rushed to the 9,998th step together. And then Xiao Lingyu suddenly woke up. No one disturbed him, and no one woke him up. This was the first time he woke up from the reincarnation dream realm without any disturbance. Just as Xiao Lingyu was feeling strange, an explosion suddenly came from his soul. The entire golden soul bead suddenly exploded. He first spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his body stiffened and fell to the ground. The Xiao family cultivators who had been surrounding him all felt their hearts tighten. They immediately grabbed his body to prevent him from being pushed away by the repulsive force. Husband, what's wrong with you? Husband, wake up. Don't scare us. Father. Xiao Lingyu's wife and children were anxious. They shook Xiao Lingyu's body with all their strength, trying to wake the unconscious Xiao Lingyu up. However, Xiao Lingyu didn't have any reaction at this moment. The other cultivators also surrounded him with concern. Ancestor Hong Jun even used his divine consciousness to scan Xiao Lingyu's body. Strange. Why did he suddenly become like this? Ancestor Hong Jun also frowned and said, "There is no strong energy fluctuation on his body. When my divine consciousness touched his body, I could only see a white mist." Ancestor, is he all right? Anya asked anxiously. He should be fine. Maybe there is a problem with his cultivation. At most, he will lose some realm or skill. If something happened, I am afraid he would have died at this moment. Ancestor Hong Jun shook his head and said with uncertainty. Hearing what Ancestor Hong Jun said, the Xiao family cultivators hurriedly looked at the soul jade tablet left by Xiao Lingyu. How is this possible? No, it's impossible. This is not true. The Xiao family cultivators were stunned at first, and then they all looked sad. They were not only excited, but also sad, because Xiao Lingyu's soul jade tablet was broken. All the cultivators in the world had a consensus that when a cultivator's soul jade tablet was broken, it meant that the cultivator's soul was destroyed. There were few exceptions. He is not dead. His vitality is still there, and there is no sign of overflowing. There is no sign of death. He should be in a special state. Ancestor Hong Jun comforted. Ancestor, please cast a spell to save him. Anya begged. My divine consciousness can't see through his situation. How can I save him? I am afraid that casting a spell at random will kill him. Ancestor Hong Jun shook his head and said, at present, there were not enough cultivators here. No one wanted to lose more. Even Sword Master, who had some grudges with Shaolin Yu, did not want Shaolin Yu to die. If Shaolin Yu died, the more than 30 cultivators of the Shao family would be greatly affected. They might even give up directly. In Shaolin Yu's sea of consciousness, there was a hazy fog. This fog was formed by the explosion of his golden soul pearl. Normally, if a cultivator's golden soul bead were to explode, its power would quickly dissipate away and the cultivator's soul would be destroyed. However, that was not the case for Shaolin Yu's golden soul bead. The vast amount of soul power within the golden soul bead transformed into a mist. However, it did not dissipate away. Instead, it simply rose and fell like a calm sea. In the depths of his consciousness, Shaolin Yu entered the reincarnation dream again. Life after life, life and death, endless reincarnation, endless recultivation. When Shaolin Yu was in this special state, the cultivators of the world of immortals finally came. These cultivators of the world of immortals were considered lucky. They did not encounter any strong resistance along the way, and almost easily reached the bottom of the stone steps. They were also very confused about the saying, those who do not enter reincarnation are all ants. Only those who have gathered the primordial chaos can become the heavens. However, they still resolutely walked up the steps. They did not reach the 9,998th step, but Hong Jun Ancestor led everyone down to welcome them and brought them to the 9,998th step. However, even with the addition of dozens of Star Extremity Peak experts, they were still unable to reach the top. The current Hao Tian also came. If Shaolin Yu was awake, he would definitely be able to recognize the current Hao Tian. This was because the current Hao Tian turned out to be the Son of Heaven who helped Shaolin Yu at Heavenly Saint Island in the Divine Realm. The strange thing was that after the Son of Heaven arrived with Celestial Venerable Hao's position, his entire body suddenly collapsed and turned into a fog, entering Hong Jun Ancestor's body. What was even stranger was that Hong Jun Ancestor was like Shaolin Yu. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, he directly fainted. The stone slab that symbolized Celestial Venerable Hao's position flew away again. Shaolin Yu and Hong Jun Ancestor both fainted. The strength of the strong practitioners of the world of immortals was greatly reduced, and they were unable to reach the last step. Everyone could only continue to wait. Even if they did not know how long they would have to wait, they still had to wait. Another 100 million years passed by. Another batch of cultivators from the world of immortals entered the starry sky ancient path. They smoothly arrived at the bottom of the stone steps. Then, under the guidance of the cultivators who had already arrived, they arrived at the 9,998th floor. Among this batch of cultivators, there was also a Hao Tian. If Shaolin Yu was awake, he would also be able to recognize this Hao Tian because he was son of Heaven Yin. This son of Heaven Yin, who was also proficient in deduction and had the same experience of repeatedly recultivating, came with Celestial Venerable Hao's position. However, his body suddenly exploded in front of Fushi and turned into a fog that entered Fushi's body. Fushi then fainted, just like Shaolin Yu and Hong Jun Ancestor. Even with the addition of this batch of cultivators, they were still unable to resist the strong repulsive force from the 9,999th step. As a result, everyone could only continue to wait. However, everyone was a little suspicious. With so many cultivators unable to reach the top, could it be that the top level was not something that could be reached with enough cultivators? Or rather, the repulsive force at the top level would not be divided, and the force acting on every cultivator was the same? Celestial Venerable Hao's position flew away again. Everyone continued to wait, but they almost did not have any hope. Another long period of time passed, and another batch of cultivators came to the end of the ancient path of stars and reached the bottom of the stone steps. Among this batch of cultivators, there was also a Hao Tian, and this Hao Tian surprised the cultivators of the Shao family. This Hao Tian was none other than Shaolin Yu's only disciple, Yi Qiu. Chapter 889. Yi Qiu didn't die or turn into mist like Hao Yan in the past. He was just surprised by his master's condition. As Shaolin Yu's disciple, Yi Qiu, who also cultivated the 9-revolution chaos formula, should have had a lot of opportunities. In addition, his natural constitution and comprehension were much stronger than his master's. Moreover, he had obtained the position of celestial venerable Hao. His current strength was much stronger than that of Shaolin Yu before he fainted. Even if there was another group of cultivators, they still couldn't reach the top. My master is indeed fine. He will wake up sooner or later. Yi Qiu's words made the cultivators of the Shao family feel more at ease. There is only one position of celestial venerable Hao. As the current generation of Hao Yan, Yi Qiu had always been fine. Naturally, the cultivators who came later couldn't have Hao Yan. They continued to wait. After many years, Hong Jun ancestor was the first to wake up. When he woke up, his aura surged wildly. Along with the surging aura, Hong Jun ancestor's body was also changing. He gradually turned from an old man to a young man in his 30s. His veins and muscles were also bulging. He looked like he was full of endless power. His silver hair had now turned into black hair that danced wildly in the wind. Whoosh! Hong Jun ancestor's transformation was soon completed. He waved his arm, and a huge axe appeared in his hand. After countless reincarnations, I'm finally back. Hong Jun ancestor looked wild and domineering. His words were full of excitement and excitement. Hong Jun ancestor, Dong Wang exclaimed in surprise. Haha, I'm not Hong Jun, I'm Pangu. The young cultivator with the axe laughed and continued. Hong Jun is just a strand of my spirit. When I was the first generation of Hao Yan, I left a strand of my spirit before I set foot on the ancient path of the stars. I called him Hong Jun so that he could also set foot on the ancient path of the stars and pave the way for me after reincarnation. So that's it. Dong Wang and the other top experts of the world of immortals were all shocked. They didn't expect this to be the case. Fushi. Panga looked at the unconscious Fushi and sneered. You actually have the same idea as me. You let the original body reincarnate continuously and finally merge with the spirit to achieve the heavenly Tao. The original body cultivates reincarnation and the spirit cultivates primordial chaos. Haha, what a pity. You woke up much later than me. After saying those words, Pangu actually swung the giant axe in his hand and hacked down at the unconscious Fushi. As the giant axe chopped down, an incomparably ferocious aura suddenly surged out. Everyone felt that the might of the giant axe was unstoppable and naturally retreated. Boom! The giant axe slammed into Fushi's body, instantly splitting him into two. Just like Shaolin Yu, Fushi had been in a mysterious state. After his body was split in half, his life essence gushed out like a flood. In just a few moments, he had been annihilated. Then Panga looked at Shaolin Yu, stroked his chin, and said, "This guy actually made it this far. His fate is indeed very good. But today he has reached the end. You're all just pawns. The heavens use you to mess up the situation, and I use you to help me reach the top." Then Pangu waved the giant axe at Shaolin Yu. However, the Shao family cultivators, Shaolin Yu's disciple Yi Qiu, and the Fudi did not agree. They blocked the attack together. Yi Qiu's primordial slate blocked Panga's giant axe. Oomph! Under the heavens, only this stone slab can block my heaven-splitting axe. Panga's face darkened. He raised his foot and forced the Fudi back. Then he shouted and poured all his power into the sky-splitting axe. The primordial chaos light flashed around the sky-splitting axe, and a fierce aura swept out in all directions. Yi Qiu frowned. He also poured his primordial chaos chi into the slate, causing it to burn brightly. Boom! The sky-splitting axe and the slate collided again. Primordial chaos chi and primordial chaos fire sputtered in all directions. The stone steps trembled. Neither of them could do anything to the other. Let's see how long you can last. Get lost. Pangu waved the sky-splitting axe again and slashed at Ichio. Ichio cried bitterly in his heart. He had not cultivated the primordial chaos body. Although he had supreme clear sky, he could only use the power of the slate to block Pangu's attack. Other than the foodie, the Shao family cultivators could not threaten Pangu. However, Pangu could easily block the foodie's attack with his feet. The situation was very unfavorable for the Shao family. However, Xiaoling Yu still showed no signs of waking up. Even though there was a huge commotion around him, he was still unconscious. Fight it out with him. At most, our family will die together. Jiang Lanchong shouted excitedly. Kill! The other Xiao Wei echoed. For some reason, Pangu suddenly stopped when he heard this. A disdainful smile hung on his lips as he said, You can't die. If more than 50 cultivators come, I'll be able to reach the top. After Pangu finished speaking, he spread out his arms. The cultivators immediately felt their bodies being tightly bound and unable to move. The current Pangu had experienced countless reincarnations and cultivated again. Furthermore, he had just attained the primordial chaos body. He could form the power of heaven with a raise of his hand. It was easy for him to seal everyone. The only one he couldn't seal was Yi Qiu, who had Celestial Venerable Hao's position. However, Yi Qiu wouldn't leave to protect Xiaoling Yu. It wasn't that Pangu didn't want to kill Xiaoling Yu. However, he could see that if he killed Xiaoling Yu, all the Shao family cultivators would die. They were already short on manpower. If they lost more cultivators, it would only delay his time to reach the top. This brat won't wake up anytime soon. Even if he wakes up, he won't be my match. There's nothing to be afraid of. There are only 50 cultivators left. It's fine to wait. Anyway, the lives of his family are in my hands. Panga thought. After an unknown number of years, Xiaoling Yu, who was in the reincarnation dream, finally cultivated to the peak of the star realm in another lifetime. He stepped onto the ancient path of the starry sky and reached the 9,998th step of the stone steps. At this moment, Xiaoling Yu suddenly woke up. Similarly, his aura surged. The primordial chaos chi that had accumulated in his body for many years began to rush through his body. However, his current realm was too high and could help him control the primordial chaos chi easily. With the support of the powerful reincarnation of countless lifetimes and the help of the primordial chaos chi that had been stored for many years, Xiaoling Yu successfully completed the primordial chaos body. Panga didn't stop him. He only moved Xiaoling Yu and his family to his side. After Xiaoling Yu's primordial chaos body was completed, Pangu said, The lives of your wife and child are in my hands. Xiaoling Yu had just woken up. When he heard Panga's words, he immediately frowned. First, he observed the situation. Then, he felt the powerful aura released from Panga's body. Xiaoling Yu was puzzled. Do I have a grudge against you? No, Panga said. Since there's no grudge, why did you capture my wife and child? Xiaoling Yu asked. It's just to save some trouble when you reach the top, Panga replied. Let them go. I won't fight with you, Xiaoling Yu said decisively. I'm glad that you made such a choice. However, we can only reach the top when there are enough cultivators. After we reach the top, I'll enter the heavenly gate. Your wife and child will naturally be fine, Pangu replied. Okay. Xiaoling Yu had no choice but to nod. Whether he reached the top or jumped out of the torrent of fate wasn't very important to Xiaoling Yu. Compared to these, he valued the lives of his wife and child more. Pangu was very accurate about his character. Time passed slowly in this stalemate. Xiaoling Yu familiarized himself with his current situation while waiting patiently. The countless life and death experiences in the reincarnation dream had allowed him to reach an extremely high realm. His soul had already dissipated, but it was still very powerful. He was sure that he had broken through the shackles of the peak of the star realm and reached an even higher realm. The breakthrough in realm also allowed him to have a deeper control and understanding of primordial chi. This allowed him to use the primordial chi and the primordial fire formed by the burning of primordial chi to transform his entire body and cultivate the primordial body. He still didn't know who the young cultivator who controlled the lives of his wife and child was, but he could vaguely feel that his strength was inferior. He could also feel that the giant axe in the other party's hand could threaten his primordial body. Even if the other party didn't control the lives of his wife and child, it would be difficult for him to win if he fought with the other party. However, at his current level of cultivation, it was very difficult to improve. It was almost hopeless to hope that he could quickly improve his strength and surpass his opponent. After an unknown number of years, another group of cultivators finally arrived. In this group of cultivators, there were Great Sage Sun and Big Sister Gu, who were familiar with Shaolin Yu. There were also more than 10 cultivators who had just reached the peak of the Star Realm. When Great Sage Sun re-entered the ancient starry sky path, he explored alone. He always felt that there was a problem, so he didn't join the group. Big Sister Gu came to the ancient starry sky path and found her husband's grave. She had been guarding her husband's grave. However, when she made up her mind to commit suicide to accompany her husband, she met Great Sage Sunday. She was stopped and persuaded by Great Sage Sun, so she didn't commit suicide. Even with Great Sage Sun's group of cultivators, it was still not enough, so they had to continue waiting. On the way here, I saw Yang Jian and the howling, celestial dog's grave. Although I don't get along with them, I also feel that it's not worth it for them. I've always suspected that we were all chess pieces, paving the way for some powerful cultivator. It seems that I was right. Chapter 890. As the saying goes, a general success is built on thousands of bones. Those who died were all unlucky. That was their fate. Even if I didn't scheme against them, they would still die for other reasons. Pangu said to Great Sage Sun, "At least you can witness a cultivator enter the gate of heaven. This means that you didn't work in vain." Great Sage Sun sneered and replied, "Even if you enter the gate of heaven, it doesn't mean that you will succeed. After the gate of heaven, there must be a so-called heaven-like existence. Do you think you can defeat him?" "I will definitely win." Pangu seemed very confident. He said, "If that person is really strong enough, why would he set up so many obstacles on this ancient path of the stars to prevent us from reaching the top? The countless difficulties show that he is also afraid that we will enter the gate of heaven. He has always been outside the game because he is behind the gate of heaven. When I enter the gate of heaven, I will also be outside the game. I was able to set up the game like this in the game. What reason do I have to lose to him outside the game?" I admit that what you said is reasonable, but there are too many things that have failed in the face of great success. Great Sage Sun replied indifferently. "Huh, just wait and see." Panga laughed loudly. After a long wait, finally, more than 30 cultivators came to the bottom of the stone steps and were then restrained by Pangu's great magic. "Come on, everyone, let's rush up together." Panga knew that the number of cultivators was enough, so he shouted excitedly. Ordinary cultivators were trapped by Pangu and had to follow his orders. Although Shaolin Yu and Yi Qiu were not controlled, they had to cooperate with Pangu for the sake of the many cultivators of the Shao family. Everyone exerted their strength together and broke through the repulsive force on the stone steps at the top. The repulsive force on the top was very strong, but just like below, it was distributed to every cultivator. The reason why they couldn't come up before was that there were not enough cultivators. "Don't move." After reaching the top, Panga pointed at Shaolin Yu and shouted. Shaolin Yu shrugged and remained silent. Panga stared at Shaolin Yu nervously, afraid that Shaolin Yu would reach the gate of heaven before him. Panga naturally did not dare to touch the cultivators of the Shao clan. He did not want to anger Shaolin Yu at the last moment. He knew very well that Shaolin Yu, who had also experienced countless reincarnations and cultivated the primordial body, was also qualified to enter the heaven gate. Shaolin Yu was concerned about the safety of her family and had no intention of touching the divine gate. Pangu slowly walked to the gate of heaven and reached out to push it. The heavenly gate was not pushed open, but it emitted a primordial light that enveloped Pangu. The primordial light circled around Pangu's body, then suddenly disappeared. The heavenly gate slowly opened. Pangu was right in front of the gate of heaven, and no one dared to rush over. When the gate was 2 feet wide, Pangu flew in and disappeared in front of everyone. Everything Pangu had done was to enter the gate of heaven. Now that he had achieved his goal, there was naturally no need to make things difficult for the Shao clan cultivators. After Pangu entered the gate of heaven suddenly closed before anyone could see the situation behind it. Even without Pangu, the number of cultivators at the top was enough to resist the powerful repulsive force. If Pangu can enter, you should be able to enter too, Great Sage Sun said to Shaolin Yu. Let me give a try. Shaolin Yu pressed her palm on the gate of heaven like Pangu did. Unfortunately, after waiting for a long time, the gate of heaven did not respond. Even if she pushed hard, the gate of heaven still did not open. It seems that only one cultivator can enter at a time. We can only wait for Pangu. Great Sage Sun shook his head and said, Pangu entered the gate of heaven like a clay ox entering the sea. It did not stir up any waves, and there was no news of him since then. The gate of heaven had always been quiet and sturdy. Everyone tried their best to open it again, but was unable to do so. They could only wait patiently. While waiting, there were still cultivators rushing to the bottom of the stone steps one after another. Shaolin Yu felt that it was not easy for these cultivators to reach the gate of heaven. Everyone had worked hard and fought, and they all had the qualifications to approach the gate of heaven. So, she led the cultivators at the top to welcome them. Therefore, more and more cultivators gathered in front of the gate of heaven, but everyone was still unable to open the gate of heaven. With so many powerhouses sweeping through the ancient Starry Sky Road again and again, the originally incomparably dangerous ancient Starry Sky Road had now become a smooth road. As long as one could enter, and as long as their luck was not extremely bad, they would be able to smoothly reach the side of the stone steps. The legend of the ancient Starry Sky Road had always existed in the world of immortals. As long as a cultivator's cultivation reached the peak of the star realm and was unable to break through for a long time, they would have the idea of exploring the ancient Starry Sky Road. Therefore, more and more cultivators entered the ancient Starry Sky Road and were then led to the gate of heaven by Shaolin Yu. The number of cultivators in front of the gate of heaven first exceeded 1,000, then 3,000, and then 10,000. The number of cultivators in front of the gate of heaven had just exceeded 10,000. What no one expected was that the gate of heaven would actually open by itself. For a long time, everyone had formed the habit of following Shaolin Yu as their leader. Shaolin Yu's humility and easygoing attitude, as well as his magnanimity and powerful strength, had already convinced everyone. After all, Shaolin Yu was the only cultivator who had cultivated the primordial body. Moreover, his cultivation was extremely high. When everyone saw him, they would think of Pangu and compare him. Naturally, they would feel that Shaolin Yu was more trustworthy. Even though the gate of heaven had opened, everyone first looked at Shaolin Yu. Shall we go in and take a look? Shaolin Yu faced everyone and asked. No one nodded. However, their expressions were filled with excitement and anticipation. Shaolin Yu could see that everyone wanted to enter the gate of heaven. After all, didn't they wait for countless years just to enter the gate of heaven? Even Shaolin Yu's wives and children were clearly restless. Thus, Shaolin Yu led everyone through the gate of heaven. Beyond the gate of heaven was a vast expanse of void. Within the boundless void, there was also a vast expanse of stars. If one were to count them carefully, they would discover that there were exactly 10,000 stars in the void. As for the 10,000 stars, they were arranged parallel to each other. They were like chess pieces on a chessboard. Shaolin Yu led everyone into the starry sky. Looking at it up close, the 10,000 stars looked more and more like chess pieces, and the starry sky looked more and more like a chessboard. And at the edge of the starry sky, there was an extremely large, shining stone slab. On it were 2 lines of large words. The hearts of all people solve the game of chess, and the success of a general will be in vain. What does that mean? Jiang Lanchong was a little confused. The meaning is actually not that profound. It means that with the support of all people and the help of all people, one can solve this game of chess and achieve the heavenly Tao. Dong Wang narrowed his eyes and smiled. If it's only a powerhouse who has cultivated the primordial body and has experienced countless reincarnations, he can only sigh in vain and be helpless here. Everyone understood Dong Huang's explanation. What about Pangu? Great Sage Sun asked. He probably didn't give up and entered the game of chess. As for the current situation, it's unknown. Dong Wang replied, there's only one person who can achieve the heavenly Tao, but he still needs the hearts of all people. Great Sage Sun continued, the reason why the heavenly gate opened automatically for us is probably because we have the hearts of all people. And the person who wants to achieve the heavenly Tao must have the support of all people. Of course, the stone slab at the bottom of the stone steps clearly states that to achieve the heavenly Tao, one must enter reincarnation and gather the primordial body. Thus, everyone looked at Xiaoling Yu. Right now, he was the only one who could fulfill all these conditions. Faced with the temptation of achieving the heavenly Tao, most cultivators would definitely find it hard to resist, but Xiaoling Yu hesitated at this moment. Firstly, he didn't have much desire to achieve the heavenly Tao. He also didn't want to control the fate of other cultivators and become a supreme existence. Secondly, he still felt that things weren't that simple. There were hints and guidance every step of the way. These hints and guidance were obviously not automatically generated, but deliberately made by cultivators. If this continued, it might not be the right path. I feel that the heavenly Tao shouldn't exist in the first place. So we don't have to solve the game of chess. We can just destroy it. From now on, there will be no more heavenly Tao. Xiaoling Yu narrowed his eyes and said to everyone. When everyone heard this, they were first stunned, then looked at him with approval. Our hearts are not for the heavenly Tao. We can only solve the game of chess for the sake of destroying the heavenly Tao chessboard. For the sake of no more heavenly Tao? Xiaoling Yu raised his arms and shouted loudly. No more heavenly Tao. Tens of thousands of cultivators responded together. Then, Xiaoling Yu led the tens of thousands of cultivators behind him to attack the chessboard together. Although the chessboard was exquisite, under the combined attacks of tens of thousands of cultivators, it shook and trembled after a full 4 hours of bombardment. Only one star exploded. Then, one star after another, tens of thousands of stars all exploded within a few days. I hate it. When all the stars were destroyed, an old but very loud voice suddenly surged in the void. The image of an old man appeared. He said, I calculated everything and was about to succeed, but I didn't expect that someone would give up the chance to become the heavenly Tao. I hate it too. Pangu's silhouette showed up in the air again. He said, I fell into your trap. I entered the gate of heaven alone into your chess game. Now, the game is destroyed. You and I are both going to die. I've tried everything I could against you, but in the end, it's all in vain. The old man's image smiled bitterly. You also had the chance to lead tens of thousands of cultivators to destroy the chessboard. Unfortunately, you were greedy. From these words, Xiaoling Yu could guess that if he led tens of thousands of cultivators into the chessboard and wanted to solve it, he wouldn't be able to become the heavenly Tao. Instead, he would be schemed against. For a long time, everyone, including Xiaoling Yu, had been schemed against. However, at the last moment, Xiaoling Yu's choice surprised this old man who was obviously the mastermind behind the scenes. Oof. Pangu snorted coldly. His image and the old man's image were both fading. You are actually not the first Haoyan. I am. The old man said, Unfortunately, when I reached the peak and stood alone at the highest point, I wanted to break through and leave this world. Therefore, I opened up this ancient road of stars. This is actually a space passage that penetrates the original space barrier of this world. What I didn't expect was that in the endless years, this space passage I opened up didn't connect to other worlds. There was only an endless void and endless loneliness. No wonder the void on both sides of the ancient road of stars was so dangerous. It turned out that it was the space barrier of the world of immortals. How could it not be dangerous? Furthermore, the more I continued to open it up, the more energy I needed to maintain the stability of the entire space passage. I couldn't hold on any longer. Therefore, I turned back and set up the ancient road of stars. I set up the stone steps, the heavenly gate, and the celestial chessboard just now. In fact, I only set up a scam to deceive the strong practitioners of the world of immortals into coming to the ancient road of stars. I knew that the more dangerous and strange a place is, the more it attracts strong practitioners, especially those top-notch ones. Reality proved that my scam was very clever. Indeed, there were always top-notch strong practitioners who were tricked. Unfortunately, it was difficult for them to reach the end. After they died on the ancient road of stars, their cultivation and energy would become the energy that maintained the stability of the ancient road of stars for a long time. Otherwise, the ancient road of stars would have collapsed long ago. However, after I finished setting up everything, I prepared to continue opening up this space passage. It's just ahead. At this point, the elder pointed to the distance and continued. Just as I started to open it up, I advanced less than 100 feet. However, celestial venerable house position suddenly became chaotic in my body. It collapsed my body and soul and flew away. I was only left with a remnant soul. However, the heavenly gate that I had personally created blocked my way back. I couldn't enter the cycle of reincarnation. After becoming Hao Tian, I shouldn't be too far away from my original world. I should have crossed the boundary, which was why I met with such a calamity. I hid in the celestial chessboard that I had set up and used my remnant soul to control the chessboard. I had a chance of survival because this chessboard was my backup plan. If I met with misfortune and hid in the chessboard, as long as more and more strong practitioners enter the chessboard, I would be able to borrow the power of the chessboard to obtain a chance of rebirth. What pity, how hateful. No matter how exquisite the plan is, it's impossible to calculate everything. Xiaoling Yu finally understood. He asked suspiciously, "Did you control our fates? How do you explain the saying of fate?" The shadowy old man shook his head and said, "Fate can't really be controlled because the future can't be clearly presented. The saying of fate is a lie." At this point, the shadowy old man's shadow finally became completely transparent and then disappeared completely. "Ah!" Panga's shadow let out a loud laugh and then disappeared. Panga's laughter was full of complicated meanings. From that laughter, Xiaoling Yu's doubts became much clearer. By now, Xiaoling Yu could think a lot of things. Everything was not controlled by anyone. It was just a game between Pangu and the shadowy old man. Panga thought that he had calculated everything, but he was still schemed against and ended up in a miserable state. He and many other practitioners were just implicated in it. They were schemed against and deceived, but they didn't really step into the abyss of conspiracy. Because this was a game of chess, there were lies and calculations in it. That was why everyone felt that their fates were controlled and that they were chess pieces. It was unknown whether it was because of the death of the old man or the destruction of the celestial chessboard, but the void showed signs of instability. The entire ancient road of the stars suddenly shook, and even the gate of heaven shattered. It seems like this place is going to collapse. We have to hurry back to the world of immortals. After that, Xiaoling Yu led the tens of thousands of cultivators out of the gate of heaven. They followed the ancient path in the starry sky and headed towards the world of immortals. End of text. I'm not going to write a closing speech. I'm just going to say a few words to everyone at the end. Xiao Fei was very satisfied with this book. At the very least, she had successfully written all the content that she wanted to write. The results were not bad. Whether it was subscriptions, collections, or gold medals, the results of the 9 Revolutions Chaos formula were not bad. Here, I would like to thank everyone for their support, especially the old hardcore fans for their unwavering support. If there's anything that you're not satisfied with, please bear with it. It's not easy to write a book. It's inevitable that there will be some unsatisfactory parts in a long book. There might also be some loopholes or bugs. There might also be some parts that can't be explained clearly. I'll leave those to everyone's imagination. Legend has it that today was the end of the world. It just so happened that the beginning of this book was the end of the world. This was actually just a coincidence. Perhaps everyone was still a little reluctant to part with this book. However, no matter how delicious a meal was, there would always be an end to it. Everyone could think about the next meal. The next meal would naturally be Xiao Fei's new book. The new book, Sword Devourer Demon, was equally wonderful. It also had a gripping story waiting for everyone. As for Xiao Fei's character, I'm sure everyone has their own opinions. If you feel that it's not bad, please support my new book. Xiao Fei's new book, Sword Devourer Demon, is waiting for you. How can you not come? Are you willing to leave Xiao Fei to fight alone? Chapter 893. Right now, there were not enough cultivators here. No one wanted to lose any more cultivators. Even the Sword Ancestor, who had some grudges with Xiaoling Yu, did not want Xiaoling Yu to die just like that. If Xiaoling Yu died, the 30 or so cultivators of the Xiao clan would suffer greatly. Chapter 895. When the elders said this, he pointed into the distance and continued. Just as I started to open it, I advanced less than 100 feet. However, Celestial Venerable Hao's position suddenly wreaked havoc in my body. It destroyed my body and soul before flying away. I was only left with a remnant soul, but I was blocked by the heavenly gate that I had personally created. I couldn't enter reincarnation. After becoming Hao Ian, I shouldn't be able to leave my original world too far. I should have crossed the line to encounter such a calamity. I hid in the star chessboard that I had set up and used my remnant soul to control the chessboard. I had a chance of survival because this chessboard was my backup plan. If I encountered an accident and hid in the chessboard, as long as more and more experts entered the chessboard, I would be able to borrow the power of the chessboard to obtain a chance to be reborn. What a pity! How hateful! No matter how exquisite the plan is, it's impossible to calculate everything. Come on, everyone, let's charge up together. Panga knew that the number of cultivators was enough. Ordinary cultivators were trapped by Pangu and had no choice but to follow his orders. Although Xiaoling Yu and Yiqiu were not controlled, they could do nothing for the many cultivators of the Xiao family. Everyone worked together to go up. The repulsive force at the top level was very strong, but it was the same as below. It was distributed to every cultivator. Don't move. After reaching the top level, Xiaoling Yu shrugged. Panga stared at Xiaoling Yu nervously. Panga naturally didn't dare to touch the cultivators of the Xiao family. He didn't want to anger Xiaoling Yu at the last moment. He knew very well that he had also experienced countless reincarnations. Xiaoling Yu was worried about the safety of his family. Pangu slowly walked to the front of the heavenly gate. The heavenly gate wasn't pushed open. After the primordial light circulated around Panga's body, Pangu was blocking the heavenly gate. When the heavenly gate was 2 feet wide, Pangu flew in. Everything Pangu did was to enter the heavenly gate. Now he had achieved his goal. After Pangu entered the heavenly gate, no one had seen the situation behind it. Even without Pangu, if Pangu can enter, you should be able to enter too. Let me give a try. Just like Pangu, Xiaoling Yu placed his palm on the gate of heaven. Unfortunately, he waited for a long time. Even if he used all his strength to push, looks like only one cultivator can enter at a time. We can only wait for Pangu. When Pangu entered the gate of heaven, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It did not stir up any waves. The divine gate had always been quiet and sturdy. He could only wait patiently. Or while waiting, Xiaoling Yu felt that it was not easy for these cultivators to ascend to the heavens. Everyone worked hard and fought, and they all had the qualifications to approach the heavenly gate. Thus, more and more cultivators gathered in front of the heavenly gate. With so many groups of experts sweeping through the ancient Starry Sky Road time and time again, the originally incomparably dangerous ancient Starry Sky Road had now become a smooth road. As long as one could enter, as long as one's luck was not extremely bad, they would be able to enter. The legend of the ancient starry sky road had always existed in the world of immortals. Any cultivator who had reached the peak of the star extremity realm and was unable to make a breakthrough for a long time would have the idea of exploring the ancient starry sky road. Therefore, more and more cultivators entered the ancient starry sky road. The number of cultivators in front of the heavenly gate first exceeded 1,000, then 3,000, then 10,000. The number of cultivators in front of the heavenly gate had just exceeded 10,000. What everyone did not expect was that, for a long time, everyone had developed the habit of following Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu was humble and easygoing, as well as his magnanimity and powerful strength. After all, Shaolin Yu was the only cultivator who had cultivated the primordial body, and his realm was extremely high. When they saw him, everyone would think of Pangu and compare him, even if the heavenly gate was opened. "Let's go in and take a look?" Shaolin Yu faced everyone. No one nodded. Shaolin Yu could see that everyone wanted to enter the heavenly gate to take a look. After all, they had waited for countless years. Even Shaolin Yu's wives and children. Thus, behind the gate of heaven, there was a void, and in the endless void, if one counted carefully, they would find that, as for these 10,000 stars, they were arranged parallel to each other. Looking at it from a close distance, the more one looked at it, the more they looked like chess pieces. And at the edge of this starry sky, there was an extremely large stone slab that was shining brightly. On it were 2 lines of large words: 10,000 people returned to their hearts to solve the chess game. What do you mean? The meaning is actually not profound. It means that with the support of 10,000 people and the help of 10,000 people, you can solve this chess game and achieve the heavenly Tao. The Dongwang narrowed his eyes and smiled. If it's just a certain expert who has attained the primordial body and has experienced countless reincarnations, he can only sigh in vain and be helpless here. The Donghuang's explanation. What about Pangu? He probably didn't give up and enter the chess game. As for the current situation, we don't know. There's only one person who can do it all day, but he still needs the support of 10,000 people. Great Sage Sun continued. The reason why the heavenly gate opened automatically for us is probably because we have 10,000 people. And the one who wants to do it all must have the support of 10,000 people. Of course, the stone tablet at the bottom of the stone steps also states very clearly that if you want to do it all day, you have to enter the cycle of reincarnation and gather the primordial chaos. Thus, everyone looked at Shaolin Yu. Facing the temptation of doing it all day, most cultivators would definitely find it difficult to resist. Firstly, he didn't have much desire to do it all day, and he didn't want to control the fate of other cultivators. Secondly, he still felt that things were not so simple. There were hints and guidance step by step. These hints and guidance were obviously not generated automatically, but deliberately made by cultivators. I don't think there should be a heaven, so we don't have to solve a chess game. We can destroy it. From now on, there will no longer be a heaven. When everyone heard what he said, they were stunned at first. Our hearts are not for the heaven. We can't solve the chess game. We can only destroy the heavenly Tao chessboard. Only there will no longer be a heaven. There will no longer be a heaven. Then, Shaolin Yu led the 10,000 people behind him. Although the chessboard was exquisite, under the combined force of more than 10,000 experts, it also shook and trembled. The bombardment continued for 4 hours. Then, one star after another. I hate it. All the stars were destroyed. The shadow of an old man appeared. He said, I calculated everything and was about to succeed, but I didn't expect that someone would give up the chance to become a heaven. I hate it too. The shadow of Pangu appeared in the void again. He said, I actually fell into your trap. I entered this gate of heaven alone and entered your chess game. Now that the chess game is destroyed, you and I are going to die. I played with you and calculated everything, but in the end, it was all for nothing. The shadow of the old man smiled bitterly and said, You also had the chance to command tens of thousands of people to destroy the chess game. Unfortunately, you were greedy. From these words, Shaolin Yu could guess that if he led tens of thousands of people into the chess game, He would not be able to become a heaven at all if he wanted to solve the chess game. For a long time, everyone, including Xiaoling Yu, had been plotted against. However, at the last moment, humph! Pangu snorted coldly. "You are not the first generation of Haotian. I am," the shadow of the old man said. "Unfortunately, when I reached the top and stood alone at the highest point, I wanted to make a breakthrough and leave this world. So I opened up this ancient starry sky road. This is actually a space passage that penetrates the original space barrier of heaven and earth. What I didn't expect was that in the endless years, this space passage I opened has not been connected to other worlds. Only the endless void, endless loneliness. No wonder the void on both sides of the ancient starry sky road was so dangerous." It turned out that it was the space barrier of the world of immortals. Moreover, the more I continue to open it, the more energy is needed to maintain the stability of the entire space passage. I can't support it anymore. So, I went back and arranged the ancient starry sky road, arranged many strange things on the ancient starry sky road, arranged the stone steps, arranged the gate of heaven, and also arranged the chess game. In fact, I just arranged a scam to deceive the experts of the world of immortals to come to the ancient starry sky road. I know that the more dangerous and strange a place is, the more it attracts experts, especially those top experts. Fact have proven that my scam is very clever. Indeed, there are always top experts who are deceived. Unfortunately, it is difficult for them to reach the end. After they die on the ancient starry sky road, their cultivation and energy will become the energy to maintain the stability of the ancient starry sky road. Otherwise, the ancient starry sky road would have collapsed long ago. But when I finished all of this, I prepared to continue to open up this space passage. It is right in front of me. When the shadow of the old man said this, he pointed to the distance and continued. I just opened it up and moved less than 100 feet forward. Suddenly, celestial venerable house position suddenly caused trouble in my body. It collapsed my body and soul and flew away. I was only left with a remnant soul, but the gate of heaven that I personally created blocked the way back. I couldn't enter reincarnation. After becoming Hao Tian, I shouldn't be too far away from the original world. I should have crossed the boundary, which was why I encountered such a disaster. I hid in the chess game that I set up and used my remnant soul to control the chess game. I had a chance of survival because this chess game was my backup plan. If I encountered an accident and hid in the chess game, as long as more and more experts enter the chess game, I would be able to borrow the power of the chess game to obtain a chance of rebirth. Unfortunately, it is hateful. No matter how exquisite the plan is, it is impossible to calculate everything. Xiaoling Yu finally understood. He asked doubtfully, "Did you control our fate? Then how do you explain the saying of fate?" The shadow of the elder shook his head and said, "Fate can't be truly controlled because the future can't be clearly presented. The saying of fate is a lie to the world." At this point, the shadow of the elder finally became completely transparent. Panga's shadow let out a loud laugh. Panga's laughter was full of complicated meanings. At this point, Xiaoling Yu could think of many things. Everything was not controlled by anyone. It was just a game between Pangu and the shadow of the elder. Panga thought that he had calculated everything, but he was also schemed against and ended up in a miserable state. He and many other cultivators were just implicated, schemed against, and deceived. Because this was a game of chess, there were scams and calculations in it, so everyone felt that their fate was controlled. It was unknown whether it was because of the death of the shadow of the elder or the destruction of the chess game, but this void already showed signs of instability. The entire ancient starry path suddenly shook. It looks like this place is about to collapse. We have to hurry back to the world of immortals. Then, Xiaoling Yu led the tens of thousands of cultivators out of the gate of heaven and along the ancient starry path that they had walked through in the past. The full text ended. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.